Therapists Uncut listeners, welcome back. We are super excited for today's episode. We are here with the one and only Gloria Magaña, who is actually joining us the day before she leaves Modesto to head to the Big Apple.
Yay!
Chasing dreams. When do you leave?
7 a.m.
7 a.m. Okay. We feel super fortunate and blessed that you are willing to grace us with your presence.
Thank you.
If I were leaving at 7 a.m. tomorrow to go cross country, no offense, but I would not be with any of you. I would be packing because I would have procrastinated.
I still need to pack.
Okay, well, we will make this a quick episode then. We'll get you in and out.
That's not why I'm saying I'm very much a procrastinator. So yeah.
I feel that. All right, I'm going to introduce you to our listeners. Okay, I'm sure some of them already know you, but we are here with Gloria Magaña, is a native Modestan and was born to entertain. As the youngest of 15 kids, there was never a dull moment or a night without an audience. Gloria began her career in 2012 at the Purple Onion in San Francisco, California, the same stage where Phyllis Diller, Woody Allen, and Richard Pryor paved their ways to fame. She made her way around the Bay Area, performing at Cobb's Comedy, San Francisco Punchline, Tommy T's in Pleasanton. I've been there, as well as the Sacramento circuit at places like Sacramento Punchline and Laughs Unlimited. She then went on to perform in Los Angeles at the Icehouse in Pasadena, the Laugh Factory in Long Beach and Hollywood, and the Comedy Store. Gloria has since performed across the United States and Mexico, and soon in New York. You'll be sure to have fun watching her animated presence on stage, which we did.
We did. So at the time of this recording, the entirety TU crew showed up front row just for Gloria Magaña. It was pretty dope.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, a bunch of therapists are watching me.
Not judging me at all.
That might have made you feel uncomfortable, but it's also very vulnerable to be sitting in the front row of a comedy skit as therapists because you're just a prime target for jokes.
Did you guys get picked on?
No, surprisingly.
No. Okay, cool. Usually with shows like this, it's rare, but if it's like a comedy club, yes. But you guys want to hear something funny? My therapist was there yesterday.
Yeah.
Awesome. Right? That's legit.
But I was like, I'm going to do a shout out. She's like, please don't.
Pretend I'm not even there.
Yeah. Like, really? No? Okay.
Oh, she's so professional. I love it. But yes, you had a room full of love yesterday because you are leaving to New York to pursue your dreams and do great things. And we are legit so honored that you have chosen to be with us this morning because we know that you probably had a crazy night full of like anxiety and tension and joy and sadness and all of the mixed emotions. So thank you for being here, Gloria. We really, really appreciate it. Let's get started. Tell our listeners about, Nikki's ready.
I've been ready to ask this question because I was an only child. So I want to know what it's like growing up with 14 siblings.
It's so cliche. There was never a dull moment, clearly. Like yesterday, that's what it felt like. My living room was like the whole, like a lot of people in the freaking living room all the time. That's what it felt like yesterday. I think that's why I'm comfortable on stage. Like not even just with comedy. Before I started comedy, like public speaking, I've always had like an audience kind of thing. And I've been the youngest. So it's kind of like, Gloria, do this. And it's literally like, look what I can do.
Well, that's a good point. Even just a short family conversation was public speaking when you have that many siblings, right?
Fair. Right. I like that. It is. Yeah, totally. It was hectic, but it was the best. Like, I can't be like, it sucked. I didn't have my own thing. Like, I literally didn't have my own room until I was probably 19, 20. Because not only I'm the youngest, but I have a lot of nieces and nephews. And so I have nieces and nephews that are like close in age with me. So then there was times they lived with us and I had like, my niece is 4 years younger than me and we grew up like sisters. So she would room with me. Like, we were both roommates, if you will. Yeah. And then when I moved like away, and then I personally like to live alone. I think because of that, where I'm like, oh, this is what it's like to like, this is my stuff.
Have some privacy.
Yeah. So, but I loved it. I can't say anything negative in terms of like growing up. Like it was in terms, I don't want to say this because, as we go along with our questions, you guys are going to hear like some things where it's like, wait, I thought it was great. But what I mean, like having a lot of brothers and sisters, it was always loud and festive and stuff. That's what I mean by that.
What's the age gap with your oldest sibling?
I'm really bad at math.
Ballpark
Approximate.
estimate.
Well, I'll be 41 this year and she's going to be 69 this year.
That's
Mhm.
very cool. Very cool.
Very
The
cool.
only child in this group here is a little envious of that. I always wish there was
Aw.
more chaos, right?
Tell us more about growing up. What was it like growing up where you lived? Where did you grow up? Growing up in your household?
So I grew up in South Modesto, the youngest of 15. My dad passed away when I was 6 years old. So my mom raised all of us, he passed away when I was 6. So like after that, obviously she raised all of us. But by the time I came along, there was only 6 in the house. Everybody else was, a lot of my siblings are a lot older than me.
Did they disperse or were you all still local?
Yeah, everybody's here in Modesto. I'm the gypsy. They're like, oh, here we go again. She's leaving.
All the way across the country.
Yeah. I love my siblings. They're all together with their high school sweethearts. So they don't understand dating. They don't understand
Cuddling.
Well, they understand cuddling, but yeah. My brother texts me and he's just like, he was there at my first show, him and his wife. He texted me and said, so you're cuddling, huh? And I was like, oh.
And if you guys want to know more about that inside joke, you have to show up to one of Gloria's shows. So definitely plan to do that.
I'm going to be 41 and I'm like, they know I have sex.
Mexican culture, we don't talk about sex. Like, it's just not something that you do.
Like, how are you here? Oh, I don't know. We didn't have sex. It's someone, the stork brought you. Like, it's like, no, you don't talk about that. And my sister, she was, I don't know if you guys saw her. She was there with the baby and she has 10 kids. And oh my gosh, she's the most awkward about the topic of sex.
In your show last night, you mentioned kind of growing up in the hood and some of the things that you were exposed to. You lightweight mentioned it, but talk to us a little bit more about some of those things that you did observe that you were exposed to, maybe any internal struggles or external things that were happening in your life during your childhood.
So there was a lot of call them tweakers. We had a lot of tweakers walking around, especially South Modesto. And it was sad because there was people that my siblings went to school with that I knew them and they were just totally talking to themselves. And then I eventually I went to school with some of these people and it's so sad to see. But when I was small, they would be walking around and my mom, we never got the birds and the bees talk. We never got the drugs, don't do drugs or alcohol. It was look at that example. You want to be like that? And I'm like, hell no. So, there was a guy named Jovito. He was the South Side meth head. Everyone knew him. And he looked like a Theo. He looked like he was a Mexican guy. And he was just all tracked out. It was so sad. And my mom was like, you want to do drugs? Do that. And that's seriously what freaked me out about drugs. Growing up, I was never curious about smoking weed, nothing, no drug, and then I grew up in a family of drug dealers. My dad was a drug dealer, he was pretty known. And so my brothers ended up following that lead for many years. And I talked about this on stage yesterday that, God totally turned our life around, my family, and not so much me, because I didn't really get into that, but my brothers, I would have never thought in a million years that they would have went the other way. And one of them is a pastor now. And
awesome.
Yeah, the other one is doesn't sell Crystal anymore, but works for Crystal, Crystal Dairy.
Thank you for clarifying.
I was curious if that was a true story. Okay.
All my stuff on stage is true. I might embellish a little bit, I might exaggerate here and there, but I loved growing up in Southside. But it's crazy though, because you would see these people walking around that were all drugged up, but us as kids knew. And so we were don't mess with him because he's having an episode right now. Mm-hmm. So then you wouldn't even talk to them. We already knew that. And then when he would or whoever would say hi to us, we're oh, he's off a bit already. Hey, what's going on? Do you need some water? But it wasn't a bottle of water. We're you need some water. And then we'd give him the hose. You want some water? Here's the hose. And they would be okay.
And now here you are on stage performing across the U.S. and moving to New York and moving your career that direction. It's, one of the things that we love about this podcast is that we get to showcase people like you who are so brave and courageous to be able to share your full story and talk about how you came to be exactly where you are today. And so again, we want to thank you. And you are like dope comedian. I mean, I actually didn't even meet you. I was exposed to Gloria at this event, and I didn't even meet her, but I remember feeling like immediately connected with her. So tell us, Gloria, when did you realize that laughter was laughter your medicine? When did you realize you love to make people laugh?
I mean, since I was a kid, it's always been like, I love to dance. Clearly yesterday on stage, I love to dance.
And your audience loved to watch you dance. You had some requests.
Okay, I'm doing. I love to dance. I feel like I know how to dance. My mom was a really big part of that. She used music to help her, kind of thing. So like it would be, my siblings would be like, Gloria, go ahead and dance. Like their friends would come over. Oh, look at my little sister. She knows how to dance. And then I was like the little like puppet, and then I would dance and laugh. And then I was like, oh, okay. And then I'd be like, my face would be silly, like, so yeah. But unfortunately, like I would like to make people laugh, but then what helped me, like how it was my medicine. And I'll start getting deep here. I was getting sexually abused after my dad passed away, and I started watching comedy late at night because I wouldn't sleep till very late. I started getting insomnia. So there was like BET, which is like Black Entertainment Television, right? And they would have what was it called? Comic View. And they would have all these comics, you know, and they were all Black, and I would watch them and I would be like, man, like I could do that. Like I make people laugh. And so I would just watch it just to like help me fall asleep. And then eventually it was, they had one Mexican guy on there, and I was like, did I change the channel and not even know I changed the channel? What happened? I felt like it was not like, I'm like, something happened. I even thought there was like a problem with the network, because I'm like, why is this Mexican guy on? And then I looked in it in the corner, it says BET. And I'm like, do they know? Like, I'm tripping out. And I'm like, oh gosh. And then his name is Dennis Gaxiola. And then that's when they were like, after, you know, he got off stage, they were like, oh, you know, they started making fun of him for being Mexican. So then I'm like, oh, they do know. They know it was like on purpose. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I could do that. I could be Mexican and on stage, like, and saying all these jokes. Like, I get to do that. Because there was like Mexican comedy, there was comedy in Spanish, but it wasn't from Mexico. It was from Venezuela and Colombia. And there was a Spanish show as well called Bienvenidos, and which is like one of my favorite shows when I was growing up. And it was kind of like it was super raunchy. Like the girls would come out in bikinis, but it was just hilarious.
And it's the one that you were watching when you were growing up.
Yeah, there was skits. It was skits. It was like so inappropriate, but I was watching it. And so I thought, well, like there's no way I could do that comedy, you know? And then when I saw Dennis, I was like, oh my gosh. So then that helped me escape the stuff that I was going through. And I honestly, you know, like I learned this in therapy where, you know, sometimes when something traumatic happens, you block it, right? It's like a trauma response, kind of like a defense mechanism, like, oh, like I'm just not going to remember it. So I have really great memory. Like that's what everyone like is like, Gloria, what is this? Da, 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 you know, like remind me or whatever. And I had a show in 2020 in December. It was a Christmas show at a church. And side note, Dennis became one of my mentors.
Very cool.
Really.
Yeah.
And I think that just speaks for, and I know we're on track here, but I want to pause really quick and just focus on how important it is for kids. I mean, we have a really big push in society right now, right? For kids to look at media and television and see people that represent them, right? And I mean, you define that as a defining moment in your childhood where this Mexican comedian came on stage, and in that moment you had wait a second, I can do that. Yeah. All right. So sorry, side note, tangent.
Does matter. Like it really does.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And when I met him, I probably met him like 5 years into my comedy career. And he reached out to me and was like, hey, I see your name popping up in the Bay Area circuit. I'm from the Bay. And I was like, does he mean hacked? Like, I was like, what?
Is this
And,
real life?
yeah. And a girl again, you know, and he was just like, I see you. And he's Christian. He's now doing like clean comedy. He's doing Christian comedy. You could see him like at the Dry Bar is this really big thing online. And so he's on there. So now he's touring again. But he was like, hey, like, you know, I see you kind of thing. And so then he just started mentoring me. And yeah, it's awesome. Cause I'm just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe the guy that I saw on
Full
TV.
circle.
Mhm.
Yeah. Like I was like, he's one of my mentors in comedy. But he hires me for like church gigs. I guess, yeah, it was a Christmas show. And I had just went through a breakup, a really, really bad breakup. And it totally took me down, you know, it took me down. So I'm on stage. And so after, like in these church events, you do your comedy, but then you also kind of start saying your testimony on like how you became a Christian. I remembered on stage something that I had blocked for all those years because I was getting sexually abused from like 8 to almost 10. And I had forgotten about this memory. Like I started to cut myself and I had totally forgotten about that. And then, so I'm on stage and I'm saying that I'm just like, and it clicked and I see him and he's like, you got it. Cause he's, you know, in the audience. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I teared up and, you know, it's a church. So everybody's like, you got it, you know, like they're all encouraging you. And so I said that I was like, I was cutting myself. Like, and I remember it not being a lot. Like, I just remember just like starting to cut myself. And then Dennis popped up on the TV. Like, it was literally like that. And I was like, wow. And I stopped and was like, oh my gosh. So like, for me, I don't think it's a coincidence. I feel like that was God being like, nope, listen, I got your attention over here. During the time that I was going through my breakup again, I wasn't cutting myself or like nothing dangerous or anything, but I was getting into a dark place. And then Dennis literally texted me and said, hey, I have a church gig for you. So it was kind of like full circle again, where God was like, hey, I'm going to use Dennis to get you out of this dark place. And then I did this show and it was like one of the best shows that I've ever done. So
Gloria, when we have these interviews, there's moments where like, we're just stuck.
Yeah.
Because I was taking it in. And I don't know about, you know, everyone listening, but I just got the chills when you were talking about that. You're absolutely right about the brain and the trauma piece. And, you know, these memories, they hit you when you least expect it sometimes. Mm-hmm. And how, like how crazy is it that you're right. All of this just really went full circle. And now this man is in your life as a mentor and a positive influence, like ongoing. How inspirational is that for everyone to hear right now? It's such a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, of course.
Something you just mentioned kind of leads into the question I have for you. So you had mentioned at one point in time, kind of turning to cutting, at least briefly, right? And that's to cope with everything that you're dealing with and that's suppressed and that you're trying to manage at that age. We talk with, especially some of our younger clients, right? Cutting is a form of coping. It's not a healthiest or the safest form. We're going to try and teach you healthier and safer ways to manage that. I have heard many individuals, and I myself, rely on humor as a form of coping when things are difficult, when things are hard. Has your comedy kind of served as a coping mechanism for you?
It has. It's definitely therapeutic. Before this last breakup that I had, I was in comedy for 9 years or something like that. And I've always been a clean comic. You would have never heard me say any curse words like, you know, I don't know what I can say on here, but like the booty, but not, you know, with ASS.
You can say whatever you want. Okay.
So I wouldn't even say ass or shit. Like and then even like for sure, I would never do F-bombs. I would say, what the fuck? That's it. But I wouldn't go all the way. And so the breakup totally pissed me off. And so like in the comedy world, they'll say like, you need to find your voice. Once you find your voice is when you're comfortable on stage, it flows, everything's just natural. I couldn't get that. And so people are like, by the time you're at 9 to 10 years, you should already have it. And I was like in my like 9th and it was like 9.5. And I'm like getting frustrated. And I was like, maybe I'm not for the business. Maybe this is not for me. All my like fellow like buddies, like the ones yesterday were like, dude, you're going to get it. You're going to get it. And I was just like, when, you know, and then the breakup, that's what activated it off. And I started cursing on stage. I started not caring. Like I would have never talked about sex ever. Nothing like that. I wouldn't have talked about like my trauma, nothing. And so I'm going to take a drink real quick.
You go for it. And while you take a drink, I'm just going to speak to my wife who's in my ears. I know that she has urged me to find my comfort on this podcast. Please don't break up with me as a way of helping me to find my, okay. I promise I'll learn it. Fuck, I'll learn it
out.
You're funny. No.
Oh, whoa. A comedian just said I'm funny. I am Gloria, I'm going to remember that moment for the rest of my life. This is my dentist moment.
Oh, it is.
Funny. Yeah. So I found my voice in that before, like I said, before it wasn't therapeutic for me. Now it's therapeutic because I just unleash everything. Now I say what I want. Now I say I'm comfortable with myself. That's what it is. It took a long time to be comfortable with myself. There was no way that I would say, oh, I think I'm funny. Now I'm like, I know I'm funny, but it's not like an arrogant thing. Like to me, I'm like, no, I put in the work. God has blessed me with this like humor. Like there's a reason why I have it and I need to share it. Maybe help whoever needs to be, like somebody that needs to laugh, things like that. So like now it's therapeutic for me. Now I use it as like a coping thing, but healthy wise. It's not like, I have problems. I'm not going to face them. I'm just going to do comedy. Because I do have a therapist and I do have a life coach and I'm, investing in that for myself.
Yes. Right. That's another one of those moments Alyssa talks about when we hear somebody say something, we're just don't even know where to go next because all of it. Yes. And I appreciate you making that distinguishing comment that coping skills can be healthy, right? Or we can use them to avoid. So I'm super glad to hear that you've done both, right? You use it as a skill and you've also sought out these other forms of support to help you process. How has that served you?
Like therapy?
Yeah. I mean, plug us, right? Like our therapist cool?
We're super biased. So we know.
I can say this on behalf of the Latino culture. Like it is so taboo. Like you don't go see a therapist because then you're crazy or you're not, dude, what are you doing? Like you don't need a therapist. They're just taking your money. My sister, she's actually the only one that's graduated college. Like, she has a degree. She went to school for like sociology and psychology and she wanted to get her license, but she didn't do it. And when I told her I was going to therapy, she kind of was like, what are you going to therapy for? And I'm like, I'm going to therapy for the people that don't go to therapy. Like you guys, like this is, cause I did like, as much as I love my siblings, they were kind of like bullies as well. I'm the little sister. So, and so her and I got bullied. I say her more because I feel bad saying this. She was always like the nerd, the bookworm, the antisocial one, the quiet one. So like
the intellectual badass.
Yeah, smart. She is. She just got made fun of a lot by the siblings, especially. I told her, I was like, I'm going to therapy because I need it. And so she was like, And I'm thinking like, you went to school for this. Like, what the heck?
Yeah.
And now like I'm in therapy I'm coming close to like 2.5 years. And so she's actually looking for a therapist now. So I'm like, yes.
Right? The best thing. Like this is what this platform is all about. When you guys are brave enough to come on here and share your stories, you give other people permission to deal with all of the garbage they have because we all have it, right? In some capacity. And there's all of these red flags that are like, don't do it because it's going to mean this. So-and-so said this. Mental health doesn't exist. Like all of these things telling you no. But if you are open to the process, it can do really great things.
It has done wonders for me. Like I was ready. So I was going to say Diane. I'll just say Diane. I won't tell you guys her last name, but Diane was my third therapist. So the first time I tried therapy was like 10 years ago when I started comedy. The only reason I stopped that one was because it was really expensive and it was in San Francisco. And I was like, there's no way I could afford this. So whatever. And then I didn't feel comfortable not because she was white. Okay, this is what I was going to say, because she was white, but it wasn't because she was white, but she didn't understand me. Like if I was like, oh yeah, my mom, she used to hit me, like she used to spank me, but more than spanking, my mom was like, like MMA fighter, like when she would hit us kind of thing. She was like, she used to hit you, and she'd get teary eyed. And I was like, yeah,
man,
I was talking back. Yeah, I deserved it. And she's like, no one deserves to get hit. And I was like, yeah, we do sometimes. Like,
where did you grow up?
Okay. And then she said at the time my mom was getting chemo, And so she goes, does she still do that? And I said, no, not to, I was like, no. And she goes, oh, okay. I was like, well, not to us, not to the nieces and nephews. And she's like, oh, I might have to report this. And I'm like, I was kidding. I was totally kidding. I was not kidding, but I was like, oh my God, I'm about to get arrested at her chemo appointment. Like, I was like, I'm stressed out. And I'm like, no, I'm just totally kidding. I'm a comedian. Ha, you know? And
you don't think that's funny? What?
So I stopped. And then when I was in LA, I was going, that one, like I could afford it, but I just wasn't ready. My mom passed away months prior to that. That's why I was like, I just needed to go to therapy and I couldn't. Like, I'd be in the car for like 45 minutes and was just like, I can't do this, like battling it. And then I would leave, like, but this time, like, I was ready. And she said that too. She's like, you made my job so easy because you just got here and was like, I'm ready. And when she tells me something, she doesn't obviously tell me what others say, her clients or patients. I don't know what you guys call them, clients or patients. But she's just like, you know, I have other people that when I tell them something, they're like, no, I'm going to agree to disagree. And she's like, and you're like, let me write that down. Cause I'm like a note taker. So I'm just like, that's good. Yeah, I do that. I do think like, I want to get better. So then I'm like, I'm ready. Like, if like criticism before used to be the worst. Now I'm like, okay, well, tell me, and then I'll see what I can do.
I'll sit with it. I'll process. Yeah. I'll digest.
And we love hearing that as a therapist then, right? Because you do have to be ready. You do have to find the right therapist. It's okay if you go to 1, 2, 3 people over the course of your life and you can't find the right one. Like, keep working on it and all the things will align. And for you, Gloria, when you realized that this is the time and this is the therapist, what was that like for you?
I thank God. I really did, because I was, before I went to the office, I was like, because you get to choose, like in your network, I was like, I don't know who to choose, like, you know, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And literally was the first one that I reached out to. My sister was even like, just because she responded doesn't mean she has to be your therapist. And I was like, no, like when I met her, she has like a motherly, like vibe to her, like very maternal, super, like makes me feel comfortable. Like, I was like, no, she's a match. Like, this is
the right fit.
Better than dating. Oh my God. That's how it is. I was like, finally. No.
I mean, yes. When you look at your referral network and you have to pick out a dentist, there's less thought that goes into it, right? No, I'm not throwing shade at dentists, but you're not going to share the most intimate details of, I mean, I guess you
might.
Your dental hygiene could be very intimate, but it's so much different when you have to form that personal connection, right? And so, not to make this a weird thing, but yes, like date therapists to find the right fit, right? I mean, definitely non-romantically date them, but check them out.
Disclosure, very non-romantically. Yes. Therapy should never include sex.
Date just around.
So we're all aware. What? I mean, always got to get that disclosure. Yeah. Just saying.
Alyssa was having trouble dropping the therapist hat in that moment.
I know. I struggled. But yes, find the right therapist for you. And Gloria, what you've done today is you've come on this podcast and you've come on different platforms. You know, I saw you at a mental wellness summit and you've been able to talk about not only being open to your healing journey with therapy and your life coach, but you've been able to talk about the other taboo topic, not just for, you know, the Mexican culture, Latino culture, just as a whole in society. Sexual abuse happens. And it's something that needs to be talked about so we can help our children learn the words to protect themselves and understand what's okay and what's not okay. And it makes so many people uncomfortable that it almost gets swept under the rug. But you being open in this place of your journey to talk about it, you're helping so many people. So thank you.
I need to get your roof fixed because I was like, my eyes are a little teary-eyed.
No, I echo what Alyssa says, right? Because you touched on it in the beginning of this podcast, and the cultures, you don't even talk about sex, the healthy, desired versions of sex, right? Let alone sexual abuse, right? So to be willing to be the brave one is vulnerable. So vulnerable to put yourself out there in that way. But I just think about how many people you've helped that you will probably never know. Right. And there's going to be the ones that have the opportunity to share that with you over the years, but just so many people that you've likely touched in that way or put the seed in their brain. Right. that maybe they're not there yet, right? Maybe they're still in the part of the journey where they're sitting in their car afraid to go into that office, but you've planted a seed.
Yeah.
And there's a few different pieces of your story that I want to come back to. The first one being, in your therapeutic journey of healing, what is like the biggest takeaway or the biggest aha moment you had about trauma and sexual trauma?
Aha moment or ha-ha moment? Because we are talking to a comedian.
Oh my goodness.
But
he's here all week.
I know, right?
That's funny.
My wife is in my ear saying, please tell her to stop stroking your ego.
Aha moment, correction, yes.
Repeat the question again, sorry.
In your therapeutic journey of healing and understanding all of these trauma responses and understanding your journey, what was the biggest aha moment for you specifically about trauma as a whole?
I'm not sure like aha moment, but it affects you so much. Like even it affects your body. Like I feel like it, and I've read about this, it manifests into something like it could be back pain, migraines. For me, I would say like, I just learned about this a year and a half ago. Like for me, it manifested in my body, like, which I was an emotional eater. You know, I grew up, I was actually a super thin kid up until the sexual trauma. I started gaining weight because I wasn't eating right, like healthy, and I wasn't sleeping. So I just became a chubby kid. And so I struggled with my weight from 8 all the way to like 38, 39. Like I did lose a lot of weight last year, but I feel like I got I finally figured out the formula to my body, you know, and I did have cosmetic surgery to get like skin and stuff removed, but like it was like the weight was melting off. Not just, I was working out and eating healthy. You guys were sitting next to the meal planners, the people that were super buff.
Yes.
But it was literally like, I don't emotionally eat anymore. Like I'll have like a snack, I'll have food, whatever, but it's not when I'm bored. This is why we look the way we look. Like it was manifesting in my stomach. Like I was skinny everywhere else. My aha moment was that trauma can affect you in so many ways, not just mentally.
And when we shove it down and don't process it, then it's so much more likely to come out in the physical manifestations, right? In ways that you would never expect. And there's so much interesting research out there in terms of how the body's affected by trauma, but that's definitely one of them.
And, earlier you had asked Nikki to repeat a question because I think sometimes we talk in our own therapist lingo. It's not very translatable, but allowing our listeners to hear it directly from you about your own personal experience and your own understanding that came with this entire healing journey is just so powerful. What would you like our listeners to know? If they took one thing from our episode today, what do you want to make sure that they hear?
There's a lot of things, but I'll start off with like you're worth it. And this isn't about like the whole culture, like, know your worth. That's not where I'm going with that. It's like, you're worth investing in yourself, whether it's through therapy. Like I say I'm such a like fan of therapy because it's helped me out so much. And so before I'd be like, I can't afford it. I'm not going to do that. But I'll be at the bar spending like $70, $80 and be like, you want to that's like, wait, I spent how much last night? And that's not worth it, like doing that. And then it's like, that was a session. That could have been a session. Like, but it was in the back of my mind, like, Gloria, that was, it's okay, whatever, And so now it's like, I invested in myself in that way. And in like a life coach, I got her for like career purposes, but she taught me so much with personal as well. And I've become a better person because of therapy. And not only that, I'm attracting better people, like quality people, better opportunities. I shine like more, like I have like this glow to me because I feel better about myself and
confidence,
dude. Like, and so now I know that I'm worth it because I didn't know before. I didn't grow up getting told that, like, you're worth it and like if anything, like in the Mexican culture, like, I think you're better. And it's like, what's wrong with wanting to be better? Here she comes. The girl that's going to therapy. And I'm my therapist, bro. Like, so you're worth it. You're worth investing in.
I love hearing you say that because we talk about this just amongst ourselves, right? That how many people have a car payment that is equal to, if not more than it would cost to go to therapy, right? How many people pay twice as much on their cell phone bill to have unlimited this, that, and the other? How many people have all of the cable channels and don't think twice about any of that, right? Buying shots at the bar, whatever it is. But then when it comes, even massages, I think people are more willing to splurge on themselves on a spa day or a physical wellness day, right? Pedicures and all that. But somebody looks up the cost of therapy and, oh, no, I can't afford that. Right.
Yeah.
But it's prioritizing these things. And if it weren't so taboo, maybe we would be more willing to say, yeah, I'm going to indulge on myself. I'm going to indulge on my brain and my emotional wellness, as opposed to, yeah, I'll indulge on a spa day.
Of course. I know friends that they go, and it's so crazy. Like, I laugh about it because I'm like, it looks dumb. Like, I'm just like, what are you doing? Like, go and do the smash, like they hit.
Yes.
Like, here, and they like smash. It's like I don't even know what it's called.
It's like you take out an anger room where you go and you just smash stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, to me, I would love to do that, but I'm not going to use that as therapy. And so I have friends, family that are like, oh, got my therapy session out of the way today. I'm like,
okay, if anybody's listening to the podcast, you missed Gloria's face right now, because that face said it all.
It was
like,
priceless.
The fuck?
Yeah, like, I don't, and I'm like, okay, that's good for how long? How, like, you got the aggression out. Cool. Like, and I'm for it. Like, I would love to go to do that, but like, that's not gonna be my therapy.
I think everyone has these myths and perceptions of what it looks like. Like, I don't know that Nikki and I walk around town and people are like, oh, that's a therapist. Like, because I think people have their own image of what a therapist looks like. And so breaking down those barriers.
Yeah, little old lady with glasses perched on the tip of the nose and a cane, and
which might be true in some cases.
Yes.
She's being a therapist right now. She's like, anyways, let's gonna clean it up.
She often has to do that for me.
For everybody listening on the podcast and audio, if you get a chance, go back and watch the actual video, because watching Gloria's just mannerisms and facial expressions are legit awesome. So definitely make time to do that.
My face definitely talks before I do, and it gets me in trouble. It does. And I'm like, I don't even, like, right now when you guys said that, I was like, I didn't even know I made a face. But going back to the whole therapist look, like, that's what I always thought. It was like, oh, it's like an old person. But you guys, I say this too, like with Christianity. I grew up Catholic and then became non-denominational Christian, and so I didn't want to become I didn't want to get so religious, because I'm like, it looks bad. Like, you look boring if you're a Christian and you're like, you can't wear this and you can't wear that. And so, but I've learned there's a different, like, I listen to Christian music, but I also, there's all kinds of Christian music, but then there's also like rap, and there's like bachata and reggaeton in the Christian like music industry. And so I'm like, dude, that sounds like normal music. So that's why I listen to it, because like the beats are really cool and all this and that. So like, even with I try to make Christianity look cool, but
there's all these stereotypes out there, right? For pick something, there's a stereotype about it, and it's about breaking those.
Yeah, and you guys definitely don't look like therapists.
Thank you.
But
that's a compliment.
Head,
and my couch is brown, not black, and you don't lay on it.
Okay.
Sit.
I mean, you could if you wanted to, but you don't like walking on. Like,
I take naps in it, but.
And everything that we're talking about is about breaking down barriers, right? Barriers. And so we have like so many layers that we touched on today. You're able to take us from like hood life to the good life, because you were able to have positive people in your life. Like, I told my husband he's doing a podcast named Hood Life to the Good Life. So
there you go.
Like that, the hood life to the good life.
Like, right? That's legit what you described, right? Like, you went from a household of drug dealers and a community of watching people who were often high and sexual abuse, and you were able to identify, you had the resilience, and you were able to identify positive people who eventually found their way back into your life too. Yeah. And now you've got all of these positive people around you. And if you were listening and you were at the farewell show that Gloria did last night, it was filled with love and nothing but positive vibe and the best wishes for you in your next chapter, right?
And it just speaks to the positivity you've given everybody in that audience, right? Yes. They were there to support you, and that was cool.
Yeah.
It was such a cool. Yeah, definitely.
So speaking of that, I know where we talked about you're going to the Big Apple, you're headed to New York, but where is your professional journey taking you? What do you want our listeners to know? How can they find you?
On my social media, like at Gloria Magaña, or it's Magana. You can add the tilde.
Spell it for our listeners, just in case we've got any, real white folk out there. Like
okay,
me.
It's Gloria, Lory Magaña. So Magana. You can find me on there. Right now, I'm trying to set up a bunch of stuff in New York. The guy yesterday, Gadiel, that featured for me, he's from New York, so he's linked me up with a lot of comics out there. So I just gotta work. I need like out here, I can easily get a gig if I go to a show and I show up and I'm like, hey, they're like, oh, you want a guest spot? Because I've made a name for myself out here. But New York, I'm gonna be a newbie. I've done comedy there, but this was like right before the pandemic. I'd go every year for about a month. And then the year of the pandemic, I was actually going to move to New York, and then that didn't happen clearly. And so now I just have to do all the work, and I have my 10-year experience, but they're like, who are you? So.
Right. Well, we believe in you. If that means anything, we definitely hear that you believe in yourself, and we wish you nothing but the best as you fly to New York and do your thing. Yes. We'll be following you.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
We thank you for gracing us with your presence.
Well, thank you to you, crew. You were just able to listen in on Gloria Magaña. You can catch her on social media at her website, and we'll make sure that we put all of her links on the show notes. So check out the show notes at therapistuncut.com. And as always, thank you for allowing us into your lives and helping us make mental health relatable and a part of your everyday conversation. We will see you on the next episode of Therapists Uncut.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for joining Therapists Uncut, a production of AMP Smart Business. To learn more about Therapists Uncut and stay up on upcoming episodes, please subscribe and follow us on social media. As a reminder, although the Therapists Uncut co-hosts are licensed therapists, they are not your therapists. This podcast is not intended to substitute professional mental health counseling. If you need professional therapy, please contact your local provider or primary care provider. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode of Therapists Uncut.